Dungeons of Hinterberg is an action-adventure title from Microbird games, which takes place in the fictional Austrian village of, you guessed it, Hinterberg. Hinterberg is a place where the normal world and the magic world collide, with both monsters and magical portals appearing in the surrounding area. Louisa, the game's protagonist, is tired of her everyday routine, and is off on holiday to Hinterberg to become a monster slayer. You'll find that the days in Hinterberg are broken up into 4 sections: morning, noon, evening, and night. Each morning you'll have a short conversation with a resident of the village, usually just covering some of their backstory. Then at noon, the real game begins, where you can explore one of 4 hub worlds. Here, you can either rest at a scenic spot to increase your social stats, which can give you buffs to your abilities and equipment, or enter through a magical portal and explore a dangerous dungeon. The dungeons themselves are usually fairly confined spaces and have an even split between figuring out puzzles or fighting enemies. The puzzles aren't too complex, and what you're aiming for is often quite straightforward. There were a couple of times where I was confused, but I never got to the point of feeling frustrated with the puzzles. The game does a good job of giving you a puzzle with only a couple of ways to solve it, so if you get it wrong you can probably realise your mistake and get it right the next time. The combat in Dungeons of Hinterberg feels pretty good as well. Louisa can use light and heavy attacks with her sword, as well as special attacks, which can be swapped out depending on what you have unlocked. This can let her unleash shockwaves, absorb health from projectiles, and much more. Finally, you will have 2 magical abilities, which will change up depending on which of the 4 regions you're in. Then comes the evening time. This is where you can interact with the villagers, get to know their personalities and what brought them to Hinterberg, and of course, this can let you boost your social stats further and get those sweet equipment buffs. Dungeons of Hinterberg is fairly linear in its layout, but the exploration of the 4 regions and the choice of who to talk to in the evening time gives you a much appreciated sense of freedom. Not only do you have the social stats you can gain from spending a chunk of your time at a scenic view or talking to a villager, but you also get relationship perks which will give buffs to Louisa and her abilities. Difficulty-wise, the game does lean on the easier side. While there are different difficulty settings, I played on normal, and I found the game pretty easy, both in terms of puzzles and combat. You'll have to dodge some attacks from more powerful foes and use magical abilities to break down the shields of some enemies, so although it is on the easier side, it isn't just mindless button mashing when you're in combat. If you do want a challenge, there is a tough mode, and for those who want the game to be a relaxing experience, there's also a vacation mode too. I imagine the vacation mode is very easy, considering the normal mode isn't challenging. The puzzle difficulty is also apparently easier in the vacation mode. There is also an accessibility option to disable dying entirely, if you really want an easygoing experience. Dungeons of Hinterberg is a solid little game. It's oddly relaxing, with the game world and its characters exuding a very carefree attitude towards life. Your protagonist is on vacation and the game does a pretty good job of making you feel like you're joining her on that vacation. It can be a genuinely relaxing experience. So, if you're after an adventure game that doesn't put too much pressure on the player and has a nice mix of character building and adventuring, then Dungeons of Hinterberg might just be the game for you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more quickfire reviews in the future.